this video is here to walk you through sketching the snail and heart cams in Fusion. So we're going to do the snail cam first. And before we start doing anything with our sketches, the first thing we're going to do is put in our parameters. And the reason for this is so that no matter how big or small I want my cam to be, all I have to adjust is one value and the rest of it will adjust proportionally. So if you look in our dimension drawings, this is your guide on how to sketch all of these cams. We have our nominal diameter, and that can change depending on your preferences, the assignment, the materials you're working with. So that's why it is a variable and it can change however we want it to. So the first thing you're going to do is go to the Modify drop-down menu and select Change Parameters. And this menu is what pops up. And so there's 3 parameters that we want to add. The first one, and so the name of it is what you are going to be typing into your sketch when you are making your dimensions. So you want it to be kind of short and sweet so you can type it quickly. So I'm going to say DIA for diameter. My units are in inches, and the expression is the numerical value. So to start off, I'm just going to say 2 inches. This could be different, and this is again what we would change if we were going to make it smaller or larger. And in the comments, I'm going to say that this is my nominal diameter, just so that I can keep straight, if I can type correctly, just so I can keep straight what is what. So here's my first parameter. My second parameter, I'm going to call H. And this is going to be the hole that goes through the middle. So the through hole in the middle, and this is what sits on the rod. So when we are going to be using these to make motion, there's a rod that's going to go through the hole, and we want the cam to be able to spin completely. Now we were told in my PLTW that the diameter of this rod is 0.25 inches. So I'm going to make this hole 0.26 inches just so it's a little bit bigger and it has some freedom to move. And that's going to be our axle hole. And then lastly, the parameter I want to add is going to be my thickness. So I'm going to call it T. And that is going to be my diameter divided by 8. And again, this is my thickness. Okay, so I have my parameters here, and now I'm ready to start sketching. So I'm going to create a sketch on one of my planes. And again, we're doing the snail cam first. That's the middle on the bottom row. So if we look at what we would have had here is a large circle, and if you see the the radius of it is half the diameter. So D divided by 2, which means the diameter of the circle is our nominal diameter. So that's what I'm going to sketch first, is a nominal diameter circle. So I'm just going to type DIA, and it automatically sets it to 2 inches for me. Okay. The next thing I need to do is create lines that are at these points in the middle. So I have one that is from the center of a length of D divided by 4, and I have one from the center to the edge that's D divided by 2. So I'm going to do that. So I can say DIA divided by 2. And then I'm going to do another one, and I'll say DIA divided by 4. Okay. So the next thing I need to do is include this curve right here on the edge, which is actually an arc. Excuse me, it's going to be an arc, and it goes from the bottom of my circle to that point that was 1/4 of the diameter away from the center. So in the Create tab, I'm going to go to Arc, and I'm going to select 3-point arc, and I'm going to select that point that was 1/4 of the diameter away from the center. I'm going to select the bottom of my circle, and I'm just going to drag it out and kind of eyeball it because I'm not going to be able to by hand put it exactly where it needs to go. And to put it where it needs to go, I'm going to use my tangent constraint and make it tangent to the outside circle. Okay. Now the last thing I'm going to need to do is trim away the parts that I don't need. So if you look, we have the outline of our snail cam right here. So I need to get rid of this excess. So under the Modify, I'm going to use this Trim tool, and I'm going to select that outer curve, and it just basically deletes it and leaves everything else. And there's one more thing I actually need to do, and that is to put my axle hole in. Oops. So I have my snail cam and I still need my axle hole. So I'm going to make a circle right here, and I can type in H, and it will pull that value from our parameters. Now I'm ready to finish the sketch. I'm going to put it in isometric view, and I'm going to extrude it, and I want to extrude everything except that hole in the middle. And I'm going to type T for my thickness. And here is my completed snail cam. Now, one thing you're going to want to do is make sure you save this somewhere in a folder and title it Snail Cam. And then next we are going to move on to our heart cam. So I'm going to open a new tab, and we're going to need to enter our parameters again. And they're the exact same, except I want to switch my units to inches first. So again, I'm going to go to my change parameters. I'm going to type DIA. We'll start it off as 2. We'll call it my nominal diameter. We're going to add our hole. And the thickness. All right, I am now ready to start a sketch. And I am now looking at my heart cam, which is the one in the bottom right corner. And so what we have on the outside here with this construction line is a circle that has a diameter of our nominal diameter. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a circle that is my nominal diameter. And I want to make it a construction line. So if I right click on my circle, there is a normal / construction option, and it gives me that dashed line which represents our construction line. With my construction circle, the first thing I'm going to do is create the top part of this heart, and I'm going to do that using 2 circles. So I'm first going to create a circle, and it doesn't matter exactly where you put it or exactly how big it is, because we're going to dimension it and use dimensions to locate it. And just make sure you don't attach it to the edge. So I have my circle, and I want it to stay tangent to my construction circle. And if we look at our dimension drawing here, it tells me that the horizontal distance from the center of my nominal circle to the center of this circle is d divided by 5. So I'm going to put in that dimension. So we said DIA is our d divided by 5. And its vertical location from the center of the nominal circle to the center of the circle is d divided by 8. So I'm going to do that. DIA divided by 8. So my circle is now located on the left, and I'm going to repeat this on the right. I'm going to start by just plotting a circle. I'm going to make it tangent to my nominal circle. And then I'm going to locate it, and it has the same reference points. It is DIA divided by 5 from center to center horizontally. And it is DIA from center to center vertically. And so it located our circles for us, and it made them the appropriate size that they needed to be in order for these criteria to be met. We have our 2 circles at the top, and now what I'm going to be putting in is the circle at the bottom. And the reason I know that these are circles is because I have center lines here. So I'm again going to just draw a circle, and I'm not going to put it straight on the axis because I want to use a constraint to make sure it stays exactly where it needs to be. So I'm going to use a vertical constraint to make sure it's in line with the center, and I'm going to make it tangent to my nominal circle. And now I need to size it. And on this one, we are given the particular size, but we're given the radius of this circle. So the radius is d divided by 10. So I'm going to take my dimension for this circle. And if you click off to the side, Don't dimension it just yet. And we right click. We want to get out of our command. And then right click. And if we select toggle radius, it puts our dimension into a radius instead of a diameter. So I can now say DIA divided by 10. And I have correctly sized this circle as we were shown. So the next thing I want to do is create the sides of my heart, which go from my circles at the top to my circles at the bottom, and we're going to do this by sketching lines and then making them tangent to our two circles. So I'm just going to sketch them out to the side, not touching exactly where they need to be, and then we'll use our constraints to put them in their correct location. So first, this line needs to be tangent to my upper circle, and it also needs to be tangent to my bottom circle. Same thing with my other line. Tangent to the top circle, tangent to the bottom circle. And then I'm going to use my snipping tool again, my trim tool, to get rid of all of that extra. So go down to the bottom and do the same. So make sure you zoom in so that you can see all of the little pieces. So there's one more piece I'm missing, and that is going to be to make this curvature feature at the top in between the two circles. So it's not a harsh indent the way that we currently have it. If you look in our dimensioned drawing, it's more of a soft curve. So we need to add that next. I'm going to add a circle up here, and again, I'm going to not draw it straight on the axis because I don't want it to get stuck anywhere. I would rather use my constraints. So I'm going to make sure it's tangent to both of these circles. Why did it do that? Let's try that again. Let me try making it tangent to the left side first, and then I'll make it tangent to the right side. There we go. And now I need to make sure that this circle is correctly dimensioned. And if you look in our drawing, with dimension drawings, we are given a radius again. So remember that circle with a slash through it is our diameter. So I need to make this a radius. So I'm going to right click. If I can get out of my... And we're going to select toggle radius. And we're told it's roller radius. And the roller radius is the same as the circle at the bottom. So we're going to make it the same as it was there, which was DIA divided by 10. And we now have that final piece. So the last thing we need is that through axle hole in the center. So I'm going to type H. And now we are ready to extrude our sketch. And what we're going to be extruding is everything except for this circle right here. So we need to make sure we select everything. Again, we're not selecting our axle hole, but I do need to select that little piece right there. And again, T is my thickness. And I now have my heart cam. Now I quickly want to demonstrate why we use the parameters instead of typing in all of these dimensions by hand, because if I now go down to my parameters and I want to make this 5 inches instead, everything changes in proportion except for my axle hole. And the reason my axle hole stays the same is because the axle or the rod that it would be resting on isn't going to change in size. So again, on this one, I could go to my parameters and I could make it smaller if I wanted to. And all I have to do is change my diameter and it proportionally adjusts to the rest of the cam. So make sure you save either Snail cam in Fusion and your heart cam in Fusion.